right. This is what you came here for. You want to learn, how do I overcome these objections, Jeremy? What do I need to say when these people say this? Man, I struggle with, when somebody says, well, that's too much money. That's a lot of money. Well, how do I respond? Right? Oh, well, I need to think about it. How do I respond to that? Oh, one-leggers. Man, I hate one-leggers. How do I respond to that? This is what you came here for. So buckle in, buttercup. Let's go. All right. So basically understand this, that there's mainly three categories of objections. They're either logical or logistical, right? Meaning it makes sense. Like if it's a one-leg partner objection and they say, I've got to talk to my wife. I cannot buy until I talk to my wife. That's not a money objection at this point yet. You have to handle all objections with a grain of salt, take them at face value. This is a logical thing. And when you overcome those logical traps and they still are, hemming and hawing, well, then now at this point, you're realizing it's going into category number 2, which is a fear-based objection. All right. Fear-based objection just basically means that you have not done a good enough job of meeting their need for certainty, or they're just this naturally fearful person that they always think the world is out to get them, and there's no way that you can close these people ever because they're so scared, right? Nope, wrong. We can do that as well. How do we do that? You're asking? Well, guess what? You just basically instill more doubt and fear that their way of thinking is not as certain as they think it is, and that your way actually makes more sense. All right? And then number 3 is a smokescreen. Listen, even the best salespeople don't close 100% of the jobs, right? There's some people that, if you had 10 leads, statistically, 1 out of 10 is not buying. They could be shopping as a secret shopper. They might own another gutter company and they just want to get comparison of what your project, what your product looks like, what your prices are, what your process is, so they can steal it. There's some people that just are not serious, all right? Or they don't need it that bad or whatever. 10% of them are not going to buy no matter what you do. Literally, you could say, hey, I will give you this for $1, and they still won't buy. All right? Just makes no sense, because there's a couple things you can't overcome. Poverty, they just can't afford your product. They can't get finance for your product. They don't have the credit score. They don't have the resources, whatever. Ignorance is number 2. Some people are just ignorant. You're telling me that if I gave you this for $1, you wouldn't buy it? Nope, I wouldn't buy it. All right, you're just ignorant then. You can't solve that. Poverty and ignorance are the only 2 objections we can't overcome. All right, so smoke screens, number 3, fall into that type of category where it's like there's nothing you can do or say that will close them. All right, just be good with that. You might go on a hot streak where you close 100% of the leads for 30, 40, 50 appointments in a row, but eventually you're going to get across one. They're just not going to buy. Consequently, on the other side of that, there's about 10, 20% of the people out there that will buy in spite of you because they were already convinced that they were going to buy this product as long as they could afford it. They just needed to know what the price was so they could see if they could afford it or not. They already did the research. They already owned it on a previous house. They already have family members or friends or neighbors that own your product. They already have an idea what it is, and those are called laydowns. All right? The difference between the mediocre rep who's closing 60%, I call that mediocre because that's what the average rep does. So the underperformer to the mediocre versus the mediocre to the outstanding, the difference is how many of those 80%, that 80, 70, 80% that flow in the middle, how many of those are we closing? So understand that there's 3 types of objections: logical or logistical, fear, they just don't have enough certainty, all right? And number 3, smokescreen. Those are your 3 categories or types of objections. Now understand this, you have to handle all objections as if they're logical and logistical objections, because if you try to take a fear word track objection to handle the money, and it's really a logistical, then you're going to end up losing the sale because you're going to end up pissing the person off. And you don't want to do that now, do you?